The iconic hammer, known as Mjolnir, belongs to the one and only god of thunder, Thor. The hammer is famously known for only letting those who are worthy to wield it.
Fortunately, I am mighty.
Generally, we know that only Thor is worthy, but did you know that there have actually been several other characters that have been able to wield the Mjolnir?
You think this is funny?
That's right, and we've compiled a list of some of them who've been lucky enough.
Oh, please be my guest.
Before we get started, make sure you head on over and wield our subscribe button. It'll make you totally worthy and keep you up to date with all of our latest content.
But I've known a few women like you.
Oh, I don't think you've ever known a woman like me.
Wonder Woman. Comic book fans everywhere can agree that team-ups are awesome, right? They're almost as epic as heroes battling each other. So if you're a fan of both Marvel and DC, which let's face it, most of us are, chances are you've asked yourself which universe is better. Who is stronger? Whose heroes would be evenly matched? Who is mightier, Wonder Woman or Thor? Those who didn't know, there was an epic mind-blowing crossover event that took place back in 1996. The event had superheroes from the DC universe pitted against heroes of the Marvel universe. And to make things even better, fans got to vote who would win. How cool is that? One event had Wonder Woman matched up with Storm.
I've killed things from other worlds before.
While Thor was matched up with Captain Marvel. Thor was able to defeat Captain Marvel through the use of his hammer, of course, but he lost his hammer in the battle and Wonder Woman stumbled upon it. She was able to pick it up quite easily and got a serious jolt of power that gave her some serious edge over her opponent. Well, it turns out this honor also made her noble, and so she gave up the power because it gave her an unfair advantage. Well, it looks like she's pretty darn worthy if you ask us.
Come on, Cap.
Nothing.
Captain America. If you were to pick anyone from the Avengers who would be worthy of picking up mighty Mjolnir, who would it be? Think about it, but we think there's a definite clear choice.
Captain America.
Mr. Lang?
Wow, this is awesome. Captain America.
We would say our first choice would definitely be the patriotic hero himself, Captain America. And Steve Rogers has definitely proven himself worthy of wielding the hammer not once, but on two separate occasions. The first instance came out in 1988 when Steve Rogers had abandoned his name of Captain America. He was then known solely as the Captain. Pretty snazzy, huh? Well, Cap visited his old pal Thor at the Avengers Mansion, except he was in the wrong place at the wrong time, or the right place, right time. They were attacked by Grog and the Demons of Death, in which Thor was taken down. But Cap was able to be a bro and lift Mjolnir long enough to send it back to Thor. What a good friend. The second time was in the comic book event Fear itself. Here, the serpent had shattered Cap's trusted shield. What was he to do? Well, Thor was fighting with his uncle and lost his grip on the mighty hammer. Mjolnir then crash-landed on Earth, and Cap lifted it up and assembled the Avengers once more. Awesome!
Come, Hulk. There are many arenas for glorious battle in Asgard. We shall lay claim to who is the strongest once and for all. Lead the way.
Hulk. A hammer's most basic function is to smash, or pound something into place. If you think of any heroes famous for their love of smashing, it would be our favorite green giant, the Incredible Hulk. Which leads us to a heated debate among fans. Who's the strongest, Hulk or Thor?
Come, friend Hulk. Taste the might of Mjolnir and witness your better.
We know Hulk can crush and destroy, lift and toss, but is he strong enough to lift the mighty hammer? Well, thanks to Stan Lee, we had a chance to find out. Stan Lee took fans' ideas and interwove them into comic book stories. So in Journey into Mystery, Thor himself ended up getting into one of our favorite arguments over who was more powerful between him and the Hulk.
Hulk strongest!
So in order to settle the score, the God of Thunder asked his father Odin to remove the worthiness enhancement on the hammer for a couple of minutes. This allowed Thor to accurately be able to see who's stronger. And guess what? Hulk was totally able to lift the hammer. Doesn't seem like much of a shocker, does it? We wonder if he would have been worthy enough of lifting it, enchantment and all.
You can save her, Cal. You can save all of them.
Superman. Faster than a speeding bullet. It's a bird. It's a plane. It's the Man of Steel himself. Perhaps the most famous superhero of all time has to be the one and only Superman. Kal-El is known for his alias Clark Kent and his super strength, speed, and a plethora of powers. So does it seem natural that we would wonder if this lover of humanity and honorable hero is not only strong enough, but worthy enough to wield Mjolnir? Luckily, when DC and Marvel gloriously planned the crossover in 1979, we were close to the answer. In 2000 2003, the Justice League and Avengers crossover was finally released, and we were definitely not disappointed. In the comic book series, Superman got his hand on the legendary shield of Captain America, as well as Thor's mighty Mjolnir. The Kryptonian superhero was able to actually use Mjolnir to smash it into an enemy, but when he tried to pick it up again and return it to Thor later on in the series, he was powerless to lift it. But why? How could he be worthy one second and not the next? Well, it turns out worthiness isn't something that is kept, but rather something that can change from moment to moment depending on specific actions.
I am Loki of Asgard, and I am burdened with glorious purpose.
Loki. You may already know, but to wield Mjolnir, one needs to be worthy. And who would be more worthy than Thor's brother? Well, it turns out, a lot of people, the trickster god, has always had a self-serving thirst for power.
You were made to be ruled. In the end, you will always kneel.
But guess what? Loki has already achieved his ultimate goal of possessing the power of Thor. Yeah, you heard that right. Loki has tried just about everything there is to get his hands on the hammer, but in an event called the Inversion, Loki became the god of heroism and truth.
But I like this.
Good guy Loki even became a new Avenger, and transversely, Thor was a villain. And because Loki is a good guy now, he finally becomes worthy of the hammer. But good things come to an end, and the inversion spell wears off, and Loki loses Mjolnir to his brother once again. Forever sad Loki. Loki, god of sadness.
Not everyone modern is a hall like you.
Just promise.
Yeah, I'll be on the lookout for the next 4 moments.
Deadpool. A fan favorite for many reasons, the saucy merc with a mouth has surprisingly made our list.
I know, right?
Although Deadpool is a bit of a troublemaker and ultimate jokester, he does have quite a few redeeming qualities. So whether you believe it or not, Deadpool has had a chance to wield the powerful hammer. But just how did this wisecracking mercenary get the hammer? Right about here is where Deadpool would break the fourth wall and tell us,
Fourth wall break inside a fourth wall break. That's like 16 walls.
Loki manipulates Deadpool into stealing the hammer while Thor's on a heroic crusade, as per usual. Thor drops his hammer and the sneaky merc uses the battle to his advantage. Now, what could you imagine someone like Deadpool doing with this mighty hammer? Well, he did just what you would expect. He went to the carnival and played games, and used it as a baseball bat. But it turns out the hammer he was using was actually a fake created by Loki. The real one was still where Thor left it, only it was hidden once again by Loki.
Do you know what happens to a toad when it's struck by lightning? The same thing that happens to everything else.
Storm. Who doesn't love the X-Men? One of the coolest characters aside from Wolverine is definitely Storm, and who better to include in this list about the god of thunder's weapon than the mutant who can control the weather? Sounds like a recipe for something epic, right? In yet another awesome crossover event, Storm and the New Mutants ended up on Asgard. There were no huge issues except for Loki rearing his devious mind once again. Storm had lost her weather controlling powers, and Loki created a new similar hammer called Stormcaster and gave it to her, which prompted her to become the Thorized version of herself and eventually broke free of his control and left Stormcaster behind. Wait a minute, we know what you're thinking. Stormcaster isn't Thor's hammer. Is she even worthy? Well, to answer your question, yes, she is very worthy. This was proven in another instance later on. She was once again given Stormcaster, and she once again became her former Goddess of Thunder self, but instead of keeping her epic god powers, she picked up Mjolnir and destroyed Stormcaster. Although technically Thor was also holding it, we'd like to think she was worthy because she willingly surrendered her powers.
So there may be no way to make you trust me, but we need to go.
Vision. The hammer seems to be alive, and sometimes this hammer appears to make decisions on its own, especially regarding who is worthy of lifting it. For those of you who have seen Avengers Age of Ultron, you might remember a certain bright red character named Vision. Well, Mjolnir deemed him worthy in the film during a time when Vision needed to prove himself. During a party scene in the film, the Avengers are all gathered around trying to lift the hammer.
Whosoever be he worthy shall have it the power. Whatever, man, it's a trick.
It was simply a party trick, so there was no need for Mjolnir to evaluate worthiness. So when Vision came over and lifted it, it came as a huge shock. Vision was born pure of heart, free of evil, and therefore worthy of holding Mjolnir. The Avengers were skeptical of him, and he needed their trust. Perhaps the hammer sensed this and allowed Vision to gain the hero's trust. Or maybe it is like Tony Stark says, and it's because Vision isn't human, and therefore the same rules don't apply to him. Why do you think he was able to wield the hammer?
You're no match for the mighty!
Thunderstrike. Most superheroes have human aliases they take on while not fighting crime and kicking butt. You know, it's always nice to be able to leave work at work, right? So you can understand why an alias is important, especially when it comes to protecting your loved ones. And in the comic book world, these aliases run rampant. Thor had a human alias named Don Blake. but when he couldn't transform into Blake, he sometimes used Eric Masterson as his alias. Eric was a construction worker, a regular, humble guy when he met Thor. He was merged with Thor for a while, which gave him the ability to use Mjolnir.
Look at you! So muscly and everything. How's space?
Space is fine.
But once Thor returned, he was given his own enchanted mallet called Thunderstrike. And he also became the hero called Thunderstrike. Not too original, but we'll give him some points because it sounds cool. When Thor had first met Eric, he had a premonition that something bad would happen to Eric. This proved true while Eric was Thunderstrike and was forced to take on the powers of the evil Blood Axe. Like a true hero, he sacrificed himself to save the world. He was offered a place in Valhalla afterwards, but chose heaven instead. Pretty worthy guy, don't you think?
Name?
He said it was Thor?
Thor.
Jane Foster. Jane Foster is so awesome that Thor was even willing to renounce his godhood for her. And Odin was even considering turning her into a god, but, well, she failed the godhood test.
Who do you think you are?
I'm Odin, King of Asgard.
As time has passed, Thor and Jane's romance fizzled out, but have remained close. And most recently, we have a female iteration of Thor.
Who's the chick with the hammer?
Whoever she is, I'm glad she's on our side.
This mystery woman turned out to be the one and only Jane Foster. At first, Thor had a hard time accepting the fact and tries to take back the hammer, but eventually comes to respect and give his blessing. To be fair, Thor initially rejected the idea of Jane wielding Mjolnir because she was undergoing chemotherapy for cancer. Although, once she fully transformed, she was totally healthy. While the transformation took place, her cancer was getting worse. So we can totally see how there was some confusion, but it looks like Jane has turned out to be the most worthy of all.
Whosoever is carrying Thor's fingerprints is, I think, the literal translation.
Yes, well, that's a very, very interesting theory. I have a simpler one. You're all not worthy.
Well, there you have it. There are just some of the characters that have lifted Thor's hammer. Who did we miss? Which one was your favorite? Let us know in the comments below. If you haven't already, subscribe to our channel, like and share our video. If you liked what you saw, check out more awesome content in our playlist. As always, thanks for watching.